Should be now.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to this webinar from National Geographic Learning. Welcome, everybody. We'll give it a few minutes and let people come into the room. Maybe you could just write in the chat where you're joining us from. And I'm sure there's many of you that have been here before. So please, if you can just write in the chat to let us know you're here and let us know where you're joining us from. The numbers are going up.
Yay!
There
Hi,
we
Victoria.
go. Delayed reaction, I think. Hi, Olga. Hi, Victoria. Hi, Maria. Hi, Karina. Mariana in Lviv. Hi, everybody. There's too many names to read out, I'm afraid. So,
yeah, Dnipro. We have some people from Dnipro, Kiev, Khmelnytsky, Cherkasy, Odessa, Izmail. Hello. Hi, Kryvyi Rih. Hello. Zaporizhia, Kharkiv, Odessa. So many people from different parts of Ukraine. Ternopil, Kropivnitsky, Zaporizhia, Kharkiv.
Yeah, I can see. Yeah.
Yeah. So many people. Khmelnytsky again. Zhytomyr. Yeah, hi, people. Cherkasy too. Brovary. Hi. Zaporizhia. Yeah.
It's
Hi,
great to see
Dnipro.
so many people from across the whole of the country.
Yeah.
So we'll just give it 2 more minutes, I think, and then we'll just do a little bit of housekeeping, and then we'll get started. Hi, everybody. Lots more people joining us, which is great. Hi, Anna. Hi, Tetiana. Hi, Marina.
Gosh, there are lots of places I've never heard of here. Great to see such a variety.
Absolutely. Okay, I think we can get started now as the clock is ticking. Welcome again, everybody. My name is Tim Pierce. Some of you will have seen me before if you've joined these webinars before, and it's an absolute pleasure to be here again. And it's great to have Kat here, who's going to give an amazing webinar presentation on turning information into insights. And we also have Alona from our partner, Lingvist, National Geographic Learning, Ukraine here. Welcome, Alona, as well. Just to say a few words before we get started, just at the bottom of the screen, you will see the chat function. Please do use that. Feel free to write messages in there. Feel free to chat as Catherine's going through the webinar. Please just make sure where you see it says to, make sure it's set to everyone, not to hosts and panelists. So please check that now if you can. So make sure that's set to everyone in chat. Also, if you have any very specific questions, please write them in the Q&A rather than the chat, and we'll try to answer those after. Kat, I can see you have your cat there. What's your cat's name, Kat?
And my cat's name, well, that one's Mara. I've actually got two. They're sisters. They are the Masai Mara, because I got them after I visited the Masai Mara.
Very nice. Thank you, Marina, for loving our course books. Thank you, and outcomes. Also, just in the chat, please, I know you always are, please try to keep it polite, and please also try to keep it on topic as well to what we're speaking about in the webinar. With that, I'm going to hand you over for a couple of minutes to Alona, who wants to say a few things.
Yeah, thank you so much, Tim. Hi, everyone. It's so nice to see you today. It's so nice to have you today. I am Alona Khvorova, as you might have guessed, I am the National Geographic Learning consultant in Ukraine, and I am an ELT consultant in Lingvist company, as it was already said. I'm just going to make sure that you know that your certificates after this webinar, they will be ready on Monday and they will be sent to you. And of course, during our today's meeting, you will see a lot of interesting information about Spark platform. And if you want to try out the demo for Spark, feel free to contact me, and I will give my contact details in a chat to you. So you will be able to ask any questions you want. So feel free to use it. And I'm gonna be with you here in the chat. If you have some questions, yeah, please feel free to use it. Thank you so much, Tim.
Thank you very much, Ilona. And Ilona, I know you'll put in the chat your contact details as well, so people can get in touch with you. And obviously you'll share those with the certificates as well next week.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, sure.
So thank you very much, Ilona. So without further ado, I think we can get started. And I'm going to hand you over to Catherine, who is our teacher trainer at National Geographic Learning. Catherine is located in Spain, and also I'm located in the Czech Republic, for those of you that know, and Ilona, you're in Ukraine. So we have a very international, in Dnipro. We have a very international mix here today. And I think with that, Kat, I'm just going to hand over to you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Tim. So yeah, welcome everybody. I'm really honored to be hosting this session today. And Olga, I've noticed you said you couldn't join. Don't worry, I have to warn you, I'm also having some technical issues. So I'm really hoping that Zoom will not suddenly crash halfway through this presentation. If it does, bear with me, I'll get back online. But yeah. Olga, you have my sympathies, don't worry. So we are here today to talk all about turning information into insights, and we're going to doing that using digital platforms to drive student progress. So what are we going to cover in this session? First of all, we're going to start with a brief background to the current digital climate and where we find ourselves today. And just to be very clear, this is not a session about AI. It's a whole different topic for a whole different session, okay? Nothing to do with AI today. After that, we'll look at the benefits of using online platforms to set online assignments and tests. Now, it's not so much about high-stakes summative testing. It's also looking at it from a more formative assessment viewpoint. Remember that. And then we'll finish by looking at how this might work in practice. And we'll look at examples taken from one LMS or one digital platform, which is the one that I know best, which is National Geographic Learning's Spark platform. I do expect your collaboration in this session, so please be ready to type things in the chat. I did have lots of polls created. However, it seems to be that the polls are making my Zoom crash. So I'm going to improvise and ask you to respond to things in the chat box instead. Hope that's all right with you. So let's kick off. This is where we find ourselves. We find ourselves in a brave new digital world. And I really love this photo because I feel it represents the feelings and emotions that we as teachers have regarding digital technology in the classroom. So if you look at the photo more carefully, you'll see that the students, they've got their tablets there. But how do you think they're feeling about technology in the classroom? So if you look at okay, the two ladies on the two extremes. So on the one side, we've got a lady, what adjectives would you say? Which adjectives represent how she's feeling? The one she's on my right-hand side, might be your left-hand side, I'm not sure. The one who's looking up. What adjectives would you use to describe how she is feeling about technology in the classroom? Engaged, discombobulated. What a fantastic word. I haven't seen that one for many years. Very good. Boring. I think, yeah, the other extreme she feels a bit bored, perhaps, but the one who looks engaged, yeah. Okay, so we've got a bit of a mixture. So perhaps on the one extreme, we've got someone looking very engaged and interested, and on the other, someone who looks a bit bored or a bit discombobulated or a bit, you know, overwhelmed. This is all too much. Okay, and then you've got someone in the middle who looks like maybe she's thinking about a question, and someone next to her who looks a bit like she's like, really? Are you really telling me this? So it nicely represents how a lot of us feel about, you know, technology in general, different levels, as it were. And one thing's for sure, however, and that is that technology in the classroom is here to stay. It's no longer something that's just nice to have. It's more of a must-have. And there are lots and lots, as you know, lots of digital content that we can use in our classes. And it might range from using programs on a more micro level, so things like Kahoot or Quizlet or quizzes, and of course Padlet. I love Padlet. I'm such a fan of Padlet. And we can use these types to supplement and to gamify our classrooms. Or indeed, we can also use classroom presentation tools to present, you know, the content in the books more simply and easily. And then on a more macro level, a more top-down viewpoint, we've got learning management systems, LMSs, like Canvas or Blackboard or Moodle. And then, as well as that, we also have to think about publishers' own digital learning platforms and how we can incorporate those into our teaching and what advantages they actually bring. So with so much choice, it's hard to know where to begin. It makes us feel a bit discombobulated. And so what I want to do now is look at exactly what these platforms, these learning management systems can do and how they can really help us. So firstly, I think LMSs, we can say, have transformed accessibility and flexibility. So they make learning environments, as I'm sure you guys well know, possible anywhere with an internet connection. And equally, in terms of delivery for teachers, it opens up so many options. So it doesn't just supplement our face-to-face classes, it also makes, you know, blended learning possible, and of course, fully online, 100% online teaching possible, easy option. The other thing would be, of course, this interactive language practice aspect. So a big part of digital is that it makes learning more interactive, more gamified, and that in turn increases motivation and engagement. I mean, I don't know about your students, but my students love Kahoot. You know, it's always, okay, if we finish the lesson early, we'll do a Kahoot, or we can create our own Kahoots. Kahoot was always, yeah, a good incentive. Students love that kind of thing. Another point would be, of course, communication and collaboration. So digital platforms have really improved communication and collaboration options in the classroom. So often they might include things like a virtual classroom features, which allow your students to have real-time communication between you and also the other students. And they also allow students to work collaboratively in discussion forums or in group projects, and that helps create this sense of community among learners. And then the last point that I'd like to mention and spend more time on is the point of assessment and feedback. So learner management systems can significantly impact how we approach assessment and feedback. And this is what I want to focus on in this session today. So this is this wonderful poll that I had designed, but I'm not going to use it for fear of crashing this webinar. So instead, I'm just going to ask you to write in the chat and we'll try and gauge where everybody's at. So let me just get the chat feature up. Here we go. So the first question I'd like you to answer is just yes or no. Do you use an online platform, or do you use a learning management system for your classes? Just very quickly, yes or no? Yes, 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 yes. Lots of yeses. Sure. Okay. No nos? Anybody know? Okay, fabulous. All right. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Great. So yeah, pretty much from what I can see, all of you use some sort of LMS in your classrooms. Next question. Do you think it makes your life easier? Is your life easier now you have this LMS or digital platforms, or harder? Way easier. No, Ines says no, it doesn't. Okay, it's interesting. Yes, yes, yes. Sure. Okay. All right, great. So most people, yeah. Yeah. Okay, yeah. I mean, obviously there are things you've got to learn about the platforms, and you have to hope, hope that it doesn't crash. It's my big worry today. But yeah, the majority of you seem to think that it makes your life easier, which is great. We'll look at that in a bit more detail in just a moment. Okay, next question. Do you use that platform to set online homework or online tests? Nope. Tests? Nope, sometimes, yeah. Yeah. Okay, bit more variety here. Okay, great. Great. Okay, thank you so much. It's really interesting to see where we are all at. Okay, a bit more variety with number 3. Thank you. Okay, it's good. It was just to sort of get a feeling of where everybody's at in the room regarding using LMSs. Okay, so we're going to talk more about this setting online homework and tests in just a second. So let's see. Before we go any further, we need to think about why we're using technology in the classroom, because it's very easy to use technology just because you can, because it's there, but we have to really think about whether it's actually helping the learning, whether it's changing the learning, and of course the teaching. So a good way to think about this is with this SAMR model. Okay, now this SAMR model was developed by an academic or an education researcher, in this case back in 2009, and his name is Rubén Puentedura. He's Harvard academic, and so he came up with this model, and it basically outlines the 4 different categories. So the 4 categories, we've got the S category, A, M, and R category. The 4 different categories of technology integration in the classroom across 2 brackets. First bracket is enhancement, you can see there on the right, and the other bracket is this transformation bracket. So let's look at this SAMR. S stands for substitution. Okay, and this is when, as it says, technology acts as a direct substitute with no real functional change. So for example, if you've got a paper book and instead of your paper book, or your print book, you use a flat PDF instead, essentially the functionality is basically the same. Obviously, I mean, the fact you can zoom in is very good if you are visually impaired, but if it's just a flat PDF, it's pretty much the same as the print one. A, going up slightly, stands for augmentation, so making bigger. And this is where technology acts as a direct substitute with functional improvement. So this we can see in, for example, student ebooks, because a student ebook, if it's not just a flat PDF, it can have functional improvement if it has embedded audio and embedded video and interactive games and activities and maybe the answers. So at this point, for me, it makes technology more worthwhile using, because it really does enhance. That's why it's in that bracket of enhancement. It really does enhance the learning experience. So this would also be where things like Kahoot and Padlet come in as well. Okay, and then we've got the M category. Any guesses what M might stand for without looking on your phone first? Let me just find this chat feature. Any guesses? You still with me? Can you write something in the chat? What might M stand for? Mobility, good guess. Oksana, very good guess. Not the answer. Methods, very good guess. Management, good one. Meaning, great. Okay, these are all really good guesses. Mind, yeah, all really good guesses. However, the actual answer is modification. Okay, so this is where technology allows for significant task redesign. And this is, for me, where the magic starts to happen, because this is where it allows you, the teacher, to do things that you might otherwise not have been able to do. So this is why it's really in this transformation bracket. So learner management systems can handle the logistical aspects of running a classroom, so they can track grades, for example. It can message students, you can create a calendar, you can post assignments. And when teaching online, it opens new channels of communication. So just, for example, in the Zoom webinar, sometimes, or when you were teaching online, or if you're still teaching online, sometimes students who are normally very shy about speaking in the classroom are much happier to be chatting away on a chat. So it can, transform, just having that chat function can significantly modify or transform your teaching. It helps students, collect their thoughts before they actually produce what they're going to say. Okay, so that's modification. And then we have the last category at the very top, which is R. Any guesses what R might be? Realities, research, result. Great, all very good guesses, but the answer was recycling. Good. The answer was redefinition. Redefinition. So as it says, this is where technology allows for the creation of new tasks previously inconceivable. I don't know about completely inconceivable, but which were previously very, very difficult to do. So essentially it's trying to say that learning and teaching here is fundamentally transformed. So for example, I don't know if any of you do this with your classes, but I used to love doing virtual pen pals. And I had a Padlet that I set up, and also I had, a friend who taught in Spain at the time, and I was in the UK, and we would get the students to, write about their local festivals and, local, just their kind of traditions, at Christmas and the summer holidays. And they would post it on Padlet, and then the other school students would do the same in a different column on Padlet, and they would, talk about themselves. And then they could also add comments to the posts of my English students from England and vice versa. And, completely transformed learning for me, because it connects students to other parts of the world where, where they wouldn't otherwise go. And then you might also use the virtual field trips. You ever use them to go to the Amazon or Egypt, to the pyramids? I mean, that's a fabulous lesson if you have time. So things like that really help, redefine and completely transform our teaching. So bearing in mind the difference here, so we've got the enhancement bracket, and then we've got this transformation bracket. So as we go on, just want you to, obviously you can't think and share online, but we'll just do it in the chat. Just think about your everyday teaching. What teaching jobs can digital platforms augment, modify, and redefine? i.e., which things that you do, the typical tasks that you have to do as a teacher, which of those jobs does an LMS help you augment, modify, and redefine? So for example, if you could just put things in your chat, if you have any ideas. just get this chat box back. Where is it? Here we go. Vocabulary test. Right, okay. So you use your learner management system to test vocabulary. Okay, great. Or maybe you use Quizlet. Yes, I used to use Quizlet all the time. It was great. What are the jobs? You think of any others? Think of all the things you have to do as a teacher. Checking progress in general, monitoring, great. Preparing homework, useful games, fabulous. Sorry, I'm just finding the chat box again, grammar tests. Okay, so tests, using games, preparing homework, fabulous. Monitoring them or checking progress, great. Okay, yeah. Facilitator. What do you mean as a facilitator? Autonomous learning, yes. So the maybe you mean the teacher becomes a facilitator or a guide or a mentor rather than, you know, the sage on the stage. Yeah. Okay, and autonomous learning, yes, absolutely. Very good, Natalia. We'll talk about that. Associations. All right. Thank you, guys. Fabulous. So nice to have teachers that interact with me. Okay, so at National Geographic Learning, we actually asked teachers from all around the world what they thought. And this is what we uncovered to be the top 5 teaching jobs that technology can help with in the classroom. By the way, this list is in no particular order of importance. It's just, you know, how I've listed them. So the first job they mentioned, or one of the first jobs I'm going to mention, is just planning and teaching or conducting live lessons. So by providing content and resources all in one place on that LMS, teachers are better able to deliver more engaging classes to students. It might just be through a classroom presentation tool, or it might be through all the additional content. But having everything in one place makes it so much easier for teachers to provide these more engaging, more interactive classes. You don't have to worry about finding things from different places and all this additional material. Don't have to do it anymore. So you have more time to be creative and to be, you know, this motivational teacher. So if we look at a classroom presentation tool, for example, so this is the classroom presentation tool for New Close-Up. We can see we've got access here to all of the units, and we've got the student book content as well as the workbook content. And we can present the book as it is, but of course we can also zoom into it, and we can see the relevant parts of the relevant parts of the text where they can find the answer. Of course, you can also listen, and you can adjust the speed. So whether you think it's too fast or too slow, you can adjust it accordingly for your students. And of course, you can use the audio scripts as well to help. So that just the classroom presentation tool alone really helps when teaching live lessons. And of course, having the answers, which you can check one by one or check all at once. And then, of course, having the teacher resources on the same platform. So all the, you know, printable, photocopyable tests are here, all the extra worksheets, all the audio and video scripts, just all these extra resources allow you as a teacher to do so much more. For example, I love using the Word documents of the reading texts that appear in New Close-Up. And I will give one student one paragraph and another student another paragraph, and I'll ask them to block out with a pen, big black pen, block out all the auxiliary verbs or all the prepositions, for example, and then give their paragraph to their partner, who has to write in the auxiliary verbs and the preposition. And that's immediately getting them doing their own open close, so typical exam exercise, but also just getting them thinking about how language works, all those, you know, little words that change the meanings. So it's a really good exercise to do. Also jigsaw readings, it's another good one too. So that's planning and conducting live lessons. The other job that teachers said digital platforms can really help with is assigning and grading exams and tests. And lots of you guys mentioned this too. So obviously this is for more summative testing. Great. But we have to also distinguish here because we've got also assigning and grading outside of class assignments or homework. So here we're talking more about formative testing, using their results to then guide them, show them, give them the resources that they need to either push them if they're very strong or to help them if they're struggling with something. So very much related to that is, of course, the ability to identify and support struggling or high-achieving students. And the last one was providing reporting on student performance to parents or to any external stakeholders as well. So out of all of those different jobs, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, just write a number in the chat. Is there one in particular of those that you personally could do with more support? Which one would you need or welcome more support with? Which one takes up the most of your time, maybe? If you could just put some numbers in the chat. Find the chat. So Marina says 4, number 4. Yes, identifying struggling students. Okay, 1 and 4, 2, 4, 1. Okay, everyone's a bit different. It's interesting. Great. 4, 4, 4. Okay, fabulous. Thanks, guys. Good to see. Okay, now let's just move on to the next one. Sorry. Okay, look at jobs 2, 3, 4, and 5, and just have a think. What links those jobs? What do they all have in common? If you were listening to what I was saying earlier, hopefully you'll guess. Assessment, yes, fabulous. Thank you, Natalie. Yes, all kind of linked in some way to assessment. And formative assessment, great. Valentina was listening, fabulous, yeah. Assessing the situation, doing something about it, which is essentially formative assessment, Marina, great. Gather information, yes, absolutely, Marjorie, okay, fabulous. Thanks, guys. So let's just move on here. Okay, so a formative assessment, so formative assessment, not a formative, or assessment for learning. So we hear about this term a lot, especially in the last 20 years or so. You're probably not that old, but but basically, yeah, ministries of education are in general moving away from more traditional summative assessment only approach and towards a more student-focused learning, which is where formative assessment comes in. Without doubt, I would say, digital has helped this process hugely. And the way we use digital in the classrooms has really facilitated the implementation of formative assessment because it makes it so much easier to gain insight into how our students are doing. So, for example, when I teach or when I taught more before, I always used to think immediately, after the first few lessons, it's like, okay, I know this person's strong and this person's weak. And then it wouldn't be until I got the writing back from them that my opinion would often completely change. Because often the ones that seem so confident and speak and are fluent, maybe with some mistakes, but they're fluent, they would seem like the stronger ones to me. But then once you got the writing back, it's a whole different ballgame. And you can see the ones that tend to be quieter are often, very good at writing and more accurate. Not always the case, obviously, but that can happen. And so with the digital platforms, it's much easier to gain that insight immediately and see exactly what they're, strong at or struggling with. So it's just a nice quote here to sum up what formative assessment is. So I'll just let you read that on your own. So yeah, it's very much about the process and getting that data and using that data to inform our teaching. So as somebody said earlier in the chat, it's about seeing results and doing something with that information. A more visual way of seeing this quote is this. So where is the learner going? So sharing learning intentions and success criteria. And then looking at where the learner is now, getting evidence of their learning, and then seeing how the learner can get there, where you want to get them, and providing them with feedback and helping them with their next steps. And then it's a continuous cycle. So yeah, digital platforms can really help with formative assessment. So I'd just like you to have a think and pop it in the chat. How can digital platforms not just enhance, but transform the assessment experience for teachers and students? Just have a think, and then when you're ready, pop something in the chat. How do these digital platforms help in terms of formative assessment? Make it more objective, great. Faster, yes. Time saving, fabulous, Natalia. Anyone else? Faster. Okay, faster with many tools. Any other options? Okay. Okay, in general, it's massively time saving. Fantastic. So that is just what I said. Yeah, so hugely time saving for us teachers. Okay. Teachers spend hours, as I'm sure you know, marking tests and inputting grades. It's very labor intensive, it's very time consuming. And online assessment really streamlines a lot of these formalities. They mark homework, they mark quizzes, tests, exams, and the platforms also make it, make assessment easier to prepare and deliver, because you might have, a bank that you can use. And one piece of research I saw on this said that teachers spent up to 72% less time on admin tasks when using digital platforms to set assignments. 72% less time on admin tasks. That's huge. So, massively time saving for teachers. And I'd just like you to have a think, pop it in the chat. This is the fun bit. How would you feel if you didn't ever have to mark assignments and tests ever again? How would you feel? Just pop it in the chat, please. Amazing. Relaxed, incredibly happy. Yeah. Okay. Really fantastic, fabulous. Okay. Next question. Better in many ways, yeah. Next question. For you personally and your classes, and obviously everybody will be different because it depends if you're teaching primary or secondary or adults, but how much time do you think it would save you every week if you didn't have to, if you had, something that did all the marking for you? How much time do you think it would save you every week? 4 days. Just 60%, yeah. 10 hours much, yeah. Yeah. Okay, good. That's what I think too. Great. And last question. If you had all this extra time, only 20%, okay, well, even if it's only 20%, it's still better than nothing, right? What would you do? What would you do with all this nice extra time? So personally, I think I would, I'd do some yoga. I might read my book for a bit longer, especially now. It's a lovely sunny day. Have snacks, Marina. Watch our weight. Enjoy our life. Enjoy. Just chill. Yeah, study time with family, reading. Write research articles. Natalia's not going to stop. She's very proactive. Great. Watch webinars. Yeah, me too. I'd catch up on all those webinars I've missed. Yeah. Yeah. Rest. Yeah. Resting's a good one too. I might actually fall asleep if I'm outside reading. Go for a walk, family, listen to music, play time. Yeah. See, this is always the best question. Everybody reacts to this one. Great. Arts. Solid. Okay. Thank you. Okay. So yeah. In general, learning management systems help save time. Okay. And obviously, if we're helping you save your time, we're also arguably helping reduce teacher burnout. Because you know, the biggest threat to education is burnout. Teaching is said to be one of the 5 most stressful careers in the world, which is just crazy, right? You know, we all become teachers because, you know, we feel it should be a joyful experience. We do it because it's a vocation that we love. And when you fall out of love with something, it can be very hard. So if we can help, you know, help with that scenario by using online platforms to set and grade homework, it's a really positive step forward, right? It's not, obviously, it's not a complete answer to teacher burnout, but, you know, it certainly has a big benefit. And the knock-on effect of this, of course, is that you can spend more time doing things that you're best at as teachers, which is being creative and making and delivering great lessons. So, yeah. The fact it's time-saving also aids your well-being. And of course, digital platforms aren't positive just for teachers, but also for students. So we've touched on this already. But how can online platforms impact positively on students? Well, most students nowadays, as you can see in the photo, are digital natives. Right? They're used to interacting online, and research suggests that they're more likely to do homework or tasks if they are online. It also offers them flexibility. There's no more my dog ate the homework, because they can do it anywhere, anytime, as long as it's before the deadline and as long as there's no blackout. I don't know if you saw the news, but here in Spain and Portugal on Monday, there was a complete blackout. So that didn't help. And of course, perhaps most importantly, is the fact that for students, they get instant results and feedback. And for me, this is the most important factor, because the biggest issue with homework is often that it's returned to students days or weeks later, and by which time they've moved on to different topics or different grammar, different vocabulary. And so that means when you go back and review the homework that you've been given back, it isn't quite as effective as getting it immediately. It doesn't offer such good opportunities for remedial work or such good assessment for learning. And I don't know about you, but probably you guys were similar because you're all teachers now. But I remember being a student and waiting for days, weeks to get my homework back. And I was a really keen student, and I really wanted to know my results straight away. And I just found it, demotivating when I got the writing back 2 weeks later, or the exercises or the test results back 2 weeks later. Sort of, okay, done that, I'm on to the next thing now. It wasn't so useful having the feedback so much later. So with these LMSs, of course, students get instant results and instant feedback. So it really aids learning. And somebody mentioned learner autonomy. It's a good one. So let's just have another poll. Again, I'm not going to use the poll because I don't want to crash the system. So I'm going to ask you to write again in the chat. So let me just get the chat. Here we go. Here's the question. Now, again, this will depend on how old your students are, I know, but let's just see where everybody else is at. So on average, how long does it take you to mark homework and return it to students? So just write one of the following. So the same day, 1 to 2 days, 3 to 4 days, 5 to 6 days, more than a week. Okay, Marina's super fast, same day, wow. 1 to 2, wow. Oh, you're all really fast. Okay, Mariana's more like me, 3 to 4 days. I'm actually longer than that. Sometimes it was 5 to 6. Okay, 4 days. All right. Nadia, you're more like me. Okay. It depends. Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you. Yes. So everyone's a little bit different. And as I said, it depends. If you're teaching primary, it's probably going to be a much quicker marking process. But and of course, I don't know if you're considering your learner management platform there anyway, but how do you think this, I mean, imagine if your students, they're getting your homework back 5 to 6 days later. How do you think it makes your students feel? How do you think it makes them feel? Yeah, Marina says demotivated. I mean, does anyone think that it's fine, that the motivation is the same? Anxious, yeah, okay. Okay. It's a bit of a, I think there's a delay here. Okay. Yeah, so maybe they aren't concerned about the results as much as on the same day. Yeah, okay. They want to give up stuff. They won't want to give up. They fidget. Okay, great. Okay, thank you. Yeah. So the great thing about the learner management system is that they can get instant results, and that is motivating in itself. And it gives them this instant validation of their efforts. And they can see what they've done wrong, and they can, depending on how you set it up, they can see the right answers and they can review as necessary. So it really helps with learner autonomy. A question I get asked a lot in conferences and webinars is, you know, how can I make my students more autonomous? Well, this is one way, yeah, using the online homework. So it really helps learner autonomy. So for example, if your students, if you can see these images here, if your students are doing these kind of exercises, you can set it up so that they can't necessarily see the correct answer, but they can see if their answers are right and wrong. And that will encourage them to find out the answers for themselves. So this quote is what I'm trying to say, suggests what I'm trying to say. So if you provide correctness only feedback, i.e. you're not giving them the actual answer yet, if you provide them just whether it's a right or wrong answer, this actually promotes these learner autonomy skills because it requires students to self-correct in order to move on. And they're responsible for detecting their error and correcting it. So you're just encouraging them to try again. As you can see in the images here with the top image, the learner management platform, they can redo that exercise until they eventually get it right. And you can choose whether you're actually going to show them the answers or not, or you can give them 1 attempt or 2 attempts or 3 attempts and then show the answers, or never show the answers and go through those with them in class. It's up to you, but it will encourage the students' learner autonomy. The learner autonomy. Okay, so lots of advantages for teachers and students. But what else can learning management systems help with? Well, with all the results marked instantly and all in one place, it means you don't have lots of disparate pieces of work that you have to remember to put in your register or your grade book. It can all be viewed as a collective whole. And that means it's much easier to identify strengths and weaknesses of individual students in a particular piece of homework or over the course of a term or a semester or a year. And that's because of course, because you've saved time marking it all, you've got more time to analyze and identify which areas the students are acing or struggling in, whether it's grammar or vocab or reading or listening. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take you to screenshots from our online platform. I'm just doing the screenshots to save time, essentially, and also because I'm worried about Zoom crashing. But what you can see here is the grade book from our LMS. I mean, many LMSs work in the same way, but I'm using Spark, National Geographic Learning's platform, because it's the one I am familiar with. So what we can see here is that you have a grade book that shows the student performance and also a grade book that shows your whole class performance. Now, first of all, I want to look at the student performance. So here I can see that I've, at a glance and I can use this traffic light system. So obviously red is bad, green is good, and amber is somewhere in the middle. So I can see that overall, in terms of all the work that Don Gomez has done, he's sort of, averaging. I can see his average number of attempts, depending on how many attempts I allow my students. I might allow them 3, or I might allow them 10, or only 1. And I can also see the amount of time that they have spent on all the assignments so far. And I can see there's a big variation, because look at Beth Leonard. She's got 96% as her average score. She's done all the work. All of them have done all the work, so that's good. She's occasionally attempted more than once some of the exercises, and she spent a whole 10 hours and 18 minutes and 41 seconds, whereas this Riley guy, Riley Sakoch, he only got 12%, but he only spent 5 hours, 36 minutes doing it, etc. So just immediately by looking at how much time they're spending, you get some really good information. But we need more than that, right? So what else can we do? Well, first of all, we as teachers can decide what we consider to be high performance and low performance. So we can adjust these percentages so that it's, according to our class. So that will help you with that traffic light system. And you can also not just judge your students on the points and what they got right and wrong, you can also judge them on their effort. So you can decide whether you think, you can decide the percentage of what you consider to be high efforts or low efforts, and what you consider to be a high number of attempts or a low number of attempts. Okay, but just having this extra way of measuring your students makes it, there's much more information there. Okay, so if I do that, I can see here that my students are put into these different categories, different groups, essentially. So I can see that I've got some what are called low performers with high effort. So they're putting in the effort, but they're not getting very good grades. So this is interesting, because I could perhaps put these students working together, and I can perhaps spend more time with them, because they're the ones that are going to need a bit more support. Whereas the other students in the other category, I've got high performers with high effort. So what I'm obviously going to have to do with these guys is push them a bit more, especially Alex, who only spent 2 hours doing his homework. So I might want to give them extra fast finisher tasks. I might want to give them more to challenge them. And so I might have them working together. And if I had, I might have students in some of the other categories as well. And again, it allows for flexible grouping. So I can making sure each student is working at their level and gets the level of challenge or support that they need. Now, if I want more detail, so imagine I want to know a bit more about this Bobby Lee guy. Let's have a look we'll click on his name. And I can get this nice report on him. I can see his average weekly trend and his average course score. And I can also see per unit, per all those assignments, I can see how he's doing. So I can see he did quite a bit better in Unit 3 than he did in Unit 4 and 5, but then he spent more time on Unit 3 as well. If I want more information, I can filter, so I can get exactly the information that I want. I can see, I can click on Unit 4, for example, because I've noticed that he spent less time on it than the Unit 3. So click on Unit 4, and then I can see everything he's done in all the assignments that he's done in that unit. And here I can see immediately that, well, he hasn't done the pronunciation exercises. Not good. And out of everything, it seems to be that listening assignment that he's got issues with, because he only got 40%, and he tried, and he only got 2 out of 5 points, but then he only spent 19 seconds on it. Now, if I wanted, I could actually click on the view, and I could see exactly what he got right and what he got wrong if I wanted to. But I can also just think, well, maybe I need to give him the audio scripts and get him to go through it again. or maybe I need to do some other sort of supporting exercises. I need to check what's going on there, essentially. And you can also, with some systems, you can find out what time the students last logged on. So you can see if they're, doing their homework 5 minutes before the class or at 2 o'clock in the morning. And you can also set your homework so that they have to complete it by, for example, 8 o'clock the night before it's due. So I can help remedy some of these last minute completion issues as well. What else? Okay, so that's the student performance gradebook. We can also look at the class performance gradebook, and that's where we can really turn information into insights. So with the class performance, I can filter, as you can see, by activities, assignments, and tests, CEFR descriptors, and also, for me, the most important one, the skills and learning objectives. So let's just look. If I filter by activities, assignments, and tests, I can see, so overall, how has my class done for what I assigned in Unit 3? Well, overall, 60% was the score. And then I've got 4 out of 5 students that are below 75%. And I can see how many students have actually completed it as well. And I can go into the units for more specific details. So I can see the Unit 3 assignment, and I can see how my students are doing, and I can see the different time that was spent on each one. And again, I can provide extra help where needed, or more challenging exercises where needed. I can also use the skills and learning objectives filter. This one for me is the best because you immediately see that the issue here is the listening more than anything else. So I can go into that, or I can look at, okay, here's the example. I'm going to look at the grammar, and I want more detail. What exactly are they struggling with the grammar? Well, click on the use of simple past and past continuous, and again, I can see exactly what's going on. So Riley hasn't done very well. I'm definitely going to have to give him some more support, and Don doesn't look too great either. Definitely needs some more support. And Beth, who's normally so good at everything, hasn't done as well as she normally does. So I can, it's great information for me to help my students. Yeah, it's informing the learning. Okay. Lastly, there's also the CEFR descriptors. So I can see if I'm using an A2 book, for example, I can see which of those different descriptors we're scoring on. So for example, this one can understand and follow a series of instructions for familiar everyday activities, and I can see where they're at there. And I can see that Alex and Beth are, doing well. They're getting their A2s, whereas the others aren't so much. So I can, again, design follow-up activities to help them. So as you saw there, you can see the LMS, specifically the gradebook, allows us to collect lots of information on our students and adjust our teaching in response to the results and plan our lessons more carefully, more appropriately. And also, of course, it helps with differentiation. So it gives us this insight into those flexible groupings that I mentioned. So high performers, but low effort, or vice versa. So flexible grouping, so this is what I'm talking about. Yeah, we saw this earlier, I hope you remember. So you can get these different cohorts or categories and then group your students accordingly. And so flexible grouping is a practice which allows you to, with our learner management system, see where they're at a glance, and then group the students accordingly for the next lesson, and give, the ones that are doing well a more freer task, and the intermediate group get a more controlled content, and the weaker students will get more support from me, the teacher. It's a very effective practice for improving learning. It allows for peer teaching as well, which is great. And ultimately, all of this essentially impacts positively on the classroom and drives learning and achievement for all of the students. So just to sum up, I'm getting to the end, don't worry. Thanks for hanging on in there. You can use digital platforms to save time, which in turn reduces your teacher burnout, to facilitate effective formative assessment or assessment for learning, and also to turn information into insights. So I'd just like to leave you with this quote. Technology will never replace great teachers, but technology in the hands of a great teacher can be transformational, which I hope will be you guys. So thank you so much for all your participation. I'm just catching up with the chat, 1 second. Okay, yeah, Beth was a very good student, it's true. Okay, fabulous. Yes, you'll get your certificates. Okay, so if you would like to engage more with National Geographic Learning's professional development, I welcome you to join our webinars. You've got the QR there, or the link. We also have a fabulous blog called In Focus with great teaching tips. It's really good. You need to find the time to go through it, of course. I need to go through it still as well, but it's got some great stuff there. All of the examples, nearly all the examples, were taken from this series for teens and young adults. It's called Close Up, it's called New Close Up. If you would like information on any of that, I understand you can contact Alona. She's put her details there for you. If there's anything else we can help with, I can take questions. Otherwise, thank you so much. And I'll hand over to Tim.
Kat, that was truly amazing. Thank you ever so much. Lots and lots of great information there on assessment, on Spark, on... I really enjoyed the the points of the time saving, for example, and trying to avoid burnout and these kinds of things. So there was lots of really great tips in there. So thank you ever so much on that. I can see, Alona, you've already put your contact details in the chat.
Yeah, they're there. Yeah, I'll do this once again, just in case. And Catherine, thank you so much. It was a pleasure to have you with us today. Thank you. It was very good.
And Kat, you will be invited back to do more webinars in Ukraine, I'm absolutely sure. So this will not be the first and last time. This will be the first of many times. Yeah. I'm absolutely sure. Okay, so with that, I hope everybody enjoyed it. Thank you, everybody, for joining. Alona, you've said the certificates will go out next week, I think on Monday.
Yeah. It will be on Monday. So yeah, stay tuned. You will get your certificate on Monday. Yeah, if you have any questions about that, please feel free to use contact information. I will answer all your questions.
Great. I can't see any questions from anybody in the Q&A, but if there are any final questions anybody has, feel free to write them in the Q&A. We'll give you 30 seconds to do that. Kath, is all your power back on and normal now in Spain? Is everything looking good?
Yes. I was very lucky. For us, it was only about 4 to 5 hours. But yeah, just seeing the chaos in Madrid, people, stuck in lifts, not being able to cook. It's terrible how reliant we are on electricity. Yeah.
We know, yeah.
Everything's fine now.
Great, that's good to hear. Brilliant. So there's nothing in the Q&A. So I think with that, we, there's something there. Just one. Can we invite Catherine to give a webinar for students on the topic of AI? Natalia will have a look at that and let you know. Please contact Alona and share your contact details with Alona.
Yeah.
Brilliant. So with that, I think we can wish everybody a very, very good late afternoon and evening. And we will see you again soon. So thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you so
Bye.
much.
Thank you.